Let's go in Raw. And we start with a recap of the AJ Punk Rollins Lynch storyline. Frankly, the recap is better than the actual show. Also helped by the fact that it's shorter. That's always an important thing. Short is better. Short is good. Let's go into the show proper then. The entrance merchant makes his way to the ring. Jey Uso, of course. He does his Yi thing with the crowd, goes down some steps, and in comes Big Jim. And they make their way to the ring from the crowd. It's good to see them together. They really are made to be a tag team. Like, one without the other, it just doesn't work. And frankly, that's a little bit weird seeing how they are basically veterans when it comes to the Fed and wrestling in general. Corey on the announce desk makes a reference to people freaking out about Wade Barrett going away. That was funny. Him and Joe gives us a recap of last week when Bronson and Braun, remember that, defeated Jey Uso and LA Knight. If you wonder, the entrance takes forever. And then there's an encore, of course. It took like 7 minutes until Jey started talking. Jey doesn't get to finish any of the lines he started before the Bronsons come in. That's a nice name. Breaker cuts a promo asking Jim if he's lost. Braun wants to fight them after what they did to Paul Heyman. He's really getting into it, I like that. Bronson stops him and says, "Not tonight." Bronson Reed, I hate the fact that they have similar names, asks to be acknowledged as the tribal thief. The crowd boos, and as you would expect, everybody chants OTC and so on. He tries to continue the promo, but the crowd chants for Roman Reigns. Unfortunately, he's not in tonight's episode. Too bad. Jim cuts a promo on the Bronsons, and this really shows that when it comes to even to promos, Jey is way better when he's with Jim, and it really makes it work. And compare this to his singles run, Jey is way better with Jimmy. It's the brotherly bond, it's the fact that they're family, call it whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Jim confirms it's going to be the Brawns against the Usos at WrestlePalooza. The Usos want to fight now, and so does Braun, but Bronson says they can wait. They can't really wait because LA Knight attacks them. The Usos help and they win this fight. But there are tensions between LA Knight and Jey Uso because Knight dodged a corner splash from Bronson and let Jey take it. This was quite a good start, and hopefully there won't be any more brawls. We now get a recap of last week between AJ Styles and Dominic Mysterio. After that, entered the phenomenal AJ Styles. Don't care, want none. This match is AJ Styles against El Grande Americano. A payback after Americano interfered last week. I don't think I've mentioned this ever or before. I love the drone shots they use in the Fed. These are perfect and it makes everything feel more cinematic and bigger, which that is a word that the Fed really has a problem with. Before Americano enters the ring, Styles cuts a promo saying he wants to take somebody's head off, called El Grande the coffee bean, which was quite funny. Says it's his fault that he got nobody watching his back. Anderson and Gallows are out. And it's like somebody made it so. AJ Styles says somebody doesn't want him there and the people boo. He will beat Americano so the person that doesn't want him can feel his pain and AJ's. Now, normally you would think we're going back to the ring, but no. We have a backstage segment between LA Knight and Adam Pearce, and they're having a little fight, whatever. Adam leaves, Byron comes in, Knight talks about how he doesn't care about the Usos reunion, talks about the stupidity of Jey, and after he says he wants a Braun. It don't matter who. Now let's get into the ring for some wrestling, that's why we're here. El Grande makes his entrance. Ludwig is doing an amazing job with his gimmick, I have to be honest. Took an amazing job from Gable and made it even better. Something I didn't even think could be possible to begin with. Nevertheless, Styles takes him out before he could enter the ring. And damn, does this match show you how much taller Ludwig is than AJ Styles. It's wow. And the match, let's be honest, is a pretty good one. It's very good. It's very nice. It's perfect wrestling in its essence. And what else could you expect from AJ Styles and Ludwig when they're in the ring? At some point, the second El Grande Americano appears and interferes in the match. I find it quite funny that Pete Dunne, I think that's Pete Dunne in this one, has the jacket of his tracksuit tucked into his pants, which is such a strange look, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, the two fight, exploder suplex from Styles, wreck bomb, pin, near fall, you know the deal. Americano does a weird slice of bread number 2, which I'm not even sure if that was the point of it, but whatever. Near fall, Dos, the second grande, goes on the apron, and here comes Dragon Lee to help AJ Styles. Some roll-ups, and finally Styles wins with a Styles Clash. Lee and Styles shake their hands, everything's amazing, and again, this was an amazing match and an amazing promo, and it really is building hype for the night. Let's be honest, things can only get better. Except at some point they're gonna hit a wall, but I'm not spoiling that. Now we move to a backstage segment between Io Sky and Adam Pearce, and apparently Stephanie isn't there, the contract signing is cancelled, but their match is still going on. I have no idea why she isn't there, it makes no sense. Maybe because she was on NXT, but whatever. Nikki comes in and she tries to be supportive of Io, and then of course jealous GF Asuka comes in to push Nikki around. Some more fighting, verbal exchange, and we have a match between Nikki Bella and Asuka. And what's quite interesting is that at some point, both of these women, Nikki and Asuka, were on top of the world when it comes to women's wrestling. One in America, one in Japan. Doesn't matter. I'm expecting this match to suck though, and I'm kinda certain of that. Lyra Valkyria comes to the ring, and now she will face Raquel Rodriguez. Now Raquel makes her entrance during the outbreak, which is quite unfortunate. Whatever. Roxanne is with her, but we don't get the match. We need to get a hype for AJ Lee and AJ Lee vignette and an AJ Lee vignette, and wow. Anyway, let's be honest, it really feels like the Fed is dead set on wasting your time as a viewer. After 3 minutes of vignettes, commentary hypes, blah blah blah, finally go back to the ring. Raquel works big and she seems to get better and better, which is quite surprising because she's been in the Fed for a while, and it wasn't until the comments from AJ Styles, from Kevin Nash, that she really started getting better and better. Of course, the crowd is behind Lyra, and everybody works well. There was a crossbody being caught by Raquel, and that was a little bit way too telegraphed. You know, it just really felt bad. It just looked bad. Nevertheless, we move on. We get the Canadian backbreaker from Raquel, and in the end, Raquel wins with the Tejana bomb. I would say it's meh, and I really thought it was meh while watching it. And I'm not a fan of women's wrestling, that's a known fact. But this was quite decent, and it was nice to see Raquel Rodriguez evolve. And hopefully her evolution isn't going to stop at this point. Backstage, we have Penta with the Viking LARPers, or Pagan LARPers, whatever I want to call them. They say they have his back. Penta meets with Adam Pearce, calls Dominic a pendejo, and that he wants a title shot. But that one's less important. The pendejo part is the important one. Whatever, he speaks something more in Spanish. They really need proper subtitles. Rusev comes in and says Adam doesn't follow the plan. You know, Rusev beats Sheamus. Rusev gets title shot. He calls Penta a clown, which... Have you seen that mask? Nevertheless, Penta says something in Spanish that nobody understands, because subtitles are hard, for the World Wrestling Entertainment. Anyway, this confirms that Penta versus Rusev tonight. We get a crowd segment during an ad, and it's the New Day, so I'm just skipping that one. I didn't even care to watch. I think I went for a drink or something. Next, we have AJ Styles and Dragon Lee talking. Styles is thanking Lee. Jim comes in looking for Jay. And they finally meet. Jay also wants to leave. They discuss the main event. Jim wants to stay and help LA Knight. Jay doesn't. Jay is really hinting at becoming a heel. Jim says that, well, Jay doesn't sound like himself. He sounds more like Roman Reigns. And after that, Jay leaves the arena with his back. AJ Lee's music hits, and the crowd is going wild. Wilder than Chicago, it seems, which is interesting. She still has Becky's title. A plot point that will become important later. She doesn't get to say much as the crowd chants welcome back, whatever. She introduces herself for those who don't know who she is. She does this weird promo that doesn't seem fitting for a 30-year-old woman. It's the type of thing you would hear a creator of a Bean Mouth cartoon speak. That cringe. The crowd seems to be into it. I probably should have been watching The Sopranos after the first match, to be honest. Hopefully AJ Lee isn't as rusty as her husband is. Dude still moves like he did when he first debuted in AEW. Anyway, back to Lee. She says it was different seeing her husband with Becky compared to seeing him with Rollins, Drew, etc. She says Becky motorboated her husband. I really dislike this promo. It's just cringe to the bone. Becky music's hints. This is just keeps going from bad to worse. The crowd boos Becky. Becky says it has nothing to do with AJ's husband or something, whatever. You know what? Seeing this cringe promo battle, I'm going to say I would rather watch the Raquel Lyra match. Yeah, and I think this is the point that really made me change my mind about the Raquel Lyra match. Because it started as meh, but now it feels better than this. Rollins comes in, now we get a cringe promo between Seth and AJ. AJ wants the tag team match between the two couples to give Becky the belt back. Or Becky can come in the ring and take the title herself. AJ promises that if she does that, she might give Becky another shiner. At some point, AJ uses the word mansplain. To the surprise of nobody over 100, but to everybody under 80. Punk comes in and tries to go to sleep for Seth. He escapes. Seth accepts the match at WrestlePalooza. Becky gets her title back. And I would rather listen to Penta speak in Spanish for 2 hours than see this again. After this stupid segment, there is a promo for a boxing match. And I would rather watch that for 10 hours than watch this segment again. And it's hard to forget it because it was so annoying, it was so cringe. This is a 30-year-old woman at this point cutting a promo against another 38-year-old woman. They're both the same age, which is quite funny. And it just feels like California babble propaganda that they try to put into your brain. No, just give me back to proper wrestling, okay? But that won't happen under the reign of Noseman. Now we go to something that's bound to be good. Rusev versus Penta. Penta makes his entrance, and his weight is introduced in kilograms if I'm correct, which is quite good, using a proper unit of measurement. Rusev comes in, and his weight is announced in pounds. WTF. No, we don't start the match, of course. We must first watch a multiple personality disorder Bayley vignette. Because that's very important. But, you know what, let's just screw that very important thing and just look at the less important stuff. Back to the match. And the match is pure gold. Unfortunately, the New Day comes in and ruins everything. You see, the match is proper in-ring psychology, proper athleticism. I could go into details, but this is the kind of match you must see for yourself. Penta still works like he's in AEW, but with Rusev, it feels like things are changed. He's at a different pace, and I like that. That helps Penta more than just doing his old shtick again. Rusev wins, and Noseman ruins an amazing match by dragging the stupid New Day feud for what seems like an eternity. For what it's worth, the match is amazing, and much like the AJ Styles and El Grande match, it's a must-watch. A must-watch. Another crowd interview during the ad breaks. This time is Dominic Mysterio. It's a good segment with Dominic acting like a dirty heel. He isn't worried about Vikingo. But before he can go on, the people chant for Dominic. It's a pretty good segment, and I'm looking forward to Worlds Collide. We get a backstage segment between LA Knight and Jim talking about the Bronson Splash. Jim is trying to be a peacemaker, but LA Knight remembers how Jay screwed him and during that whole pay-per-view thing when he went after him first. Another decent promo from Knight. Now it's time for Nikki versus Asuka. First enter Nikki, then Asuka. Alongside, of course, Kairi Sane. Surprisingly decent overall. Either Nikki got a wake-up call after her match, or she just has immense chemistry with Asuka. Asuka wins by submission. She uses Kairi Sane as a body double, a body shield at some point, which is quite funny. And I have to say, it's quite a decent match. It doesn't compare with any of the other matches, with Rusev against Penta, with Styles against Ludwig, or with, what was it, Raquel and Lyra. But it was decent in its own right. And we get another segment for the cringe. Yes, more AJ Lee and this weird family feud that should never have happened. Just unplug the cameras at this point, please. Whatever. Time for the main event. Firstly, LA Knight comes to the ring. More ad break, so that means LA Knight stands in the ring for a minute doing nothing. Bronson's music hits and he comes with Braun Breaker by his side. This whole Tribal Thief gimmick is the kind of gimmick you would see on the indies as a ripoff. Something stupid you just pull on the indies because why not? Like Blue Cane or Cocaine. You know, something dumb like that would never really work, but they really want to force it onto you. They really want you to like this. It's not likable. It's stupid. It's bad. Anyway, no match for you. Backstage segment with Asuka and Nikki Bella. The Fed really loves wasting your time. Rhea appears and more cringe happens. She has that ring thing we put on pigs in their nose so they don't dig up doors and stuff. Rhea does, of course. I couldn't care less for this whole segment. It's not as bad as the AJ Punk Rollins Lynch one, but it sucks. So, moving over, let's go to the match. The match between Knight and Bronson follows the same formula the whole show did tonight, which is decently good. Like, they're really good matches, and it works, you know? The storyline is built that Knight really needs some friends. Bronson wins after Knight had to deal with both Brons at some point because interference, of course. You will see that that's kind of a common pattern where other people are involved in matches. Damn, that's bad. That's very bad. Anyway, quite a good match. It's exactly what you expect from the Seth Riders. It is what it is, you know, the interference and stuff. As the Bronzes are preparing to beat up LA Knight, Big Jin comes to the rescue. But he ends up being beaten instead. Yeah. Bunch of good that did. Jay comes up next. He gets some hits in, which is pretty good. But Breaker spears him. And now the Bronsons beat up the Usos. Knight comes into the rescue with a steel chair, cleaning house. Jimmy and Knight make up, but at the end, Jay Uso spears LA Knight to the surprise of everyone. Jimmy is shocked, the world is shocked. Jay tells Knight, we good now. Now, excluding the 3 cringe segments, you know, the Family Feud one, the New Day one, and the thing with Rhea, this was quite a surprisingly good show. Something hard to believe possible for me personally. I highly recommend this show, of course, only if you skip or ignore the 3 cringe segments. And we also have to deal with the fact that the whole show had interferences in them and not a proper good match was done. No start to finish, no interference, just 2 guys wrestling and that's it. Unfortunately, it sucks, but what can you do? The show is still good.